Have you ever stopped to ponder what separates big, large, and huge? It's an intriguing question, isn't it? We use these words interchangeably in our everyday conversations, often without giving them much thought. But are they really as synonymous as we think? Is there a hidden complexity lurking beneath the surface of these seemingly simple terms? And could understanding their nuances enhance our communication skills? Well, buckle up because we're about to dissect the nuances of these terms. First up, we have big. This simple three-letter word packs a punch when it comes to expressing size. Big is a versatile term that can be used to describe anything from a big apple to a big idea. The word big originates from early English language, specifically from the Old English bichi, which interestingly enough referred to a female dog. Over time, the term evolved, and by the mid-14th century, the word big was being used in the way we understand it today, to convey largeness or size. In everyday language, big is commonly used to describe physical dimensions. For example, we might refer to a tall building as a big skyscraper, or a vast expanse of water as a big ocean. However, big doesn't stop at just the physical world. We often use it to describe abstract concepts that are significant in some way. You might hear someone say they have a big decision to make, or that they're working on a big project. Big can also be used to express intensity or degree. For instance, if you're a big fan of something, it means you like it a lot. If you've made a big mistake, it's not just a minor slip-up, but something significant. It's also worth noting that big can be used in a comparative or superlative context. You might say your older sibling is bigger than you, or that the Grand Canyon is the biggest canyon in the world. But what sets big apart from similar words like large or huge? It's the simplicity and flexibility of big that makes it a favorite choice. It can be used in a wide variety of contexts, and it's easy to understand, even for those who are just starting to learn English. So when you're describing something that's significant in size, whether it's a physical object, an abstract concept, or the degree of something, big is your go-to word. Next on the list is large. This adjective, like its counterparts big and huge, is used to describe something of considerable size. But let's dig a little deeper to understand the nuances that this word carries. Originating from the Old French large, which meant generous and giving, it was later adopted into Middle English with a slightly shifted meaning of broad, wide. Over time, large came to be associated with size, but it retained a hint of its historical connotation of abundance and generosity. In common usage, large is often used to describe something that's bigger than the norm, but not excessively so. It's a step up from big, but doesn't quite reach the magnitude of huge. For example, you might use large to describe a pizza that's bigger than the standard size, but not so big that it's a feat to finish it. Let's illustrate this with a few sentences. You might say, she lives in a large house, to indicate a house that's bigger than average, but not a mansion. Or you might say, he has a large collection of stamps, suggesting a collection that's impressive, but not overwhelming. In some contexts, large also carries a connotation of being comprehensive or extensive. For example, when you talk about a large-scale operation, you're referring to an operation that covers a wide area or involves many people. It's also worth noting that large often appears in fixed phrases and idioms. Take at large, for instance. When a criminal is at large, it means they are free and not yet captured. Or the larger picture, which means the most important facts about a situation and the effects of that situation on other things. Thus, large is often used when you're referring to something that's bigger than the average size. Last but not least, we have huge. This is the word we use when something is much larger than usual, even larger than big or large. The word huge comes from the Old French word hoge, which means great or large in size, extent, or amount. Huge is often used to describe physical objects of great size, like a huge mountain or a huge building. But it's also used to describe abstract concepts like a huge success or a huge mistake. Let's look at some examples. You could say, the Grand Canyon is a huge chasm. This conveys the sheer size and depth of the Grand Canyon, giving us a sense of awe and wonder. Or, consider the sentence, winning the lottery was a huge surprise. Here, huge is used to express the enormity of the surprise, underlining the unexpected nature of the event. It's important to note that huge often carries a sense of being overwhelming or impressive. A huge crowd, for example, might be so large that it's difficult to comprehend, or a huge achievement might be so significant that it's hard to believe. Remember, though, that huge is a relative term. What's considered huge can vary depending on the context and the individual's perspective. So when something is much larger than the norm, huge is the word you're looking for. Let's do a quick recap of what we've learned. We've delved into the differences between big, large, and huge. We discovered that big is the most general term, often used to describe anything that is larger than average, from a big apple to a big idea. Then we moved on to large, which leans more towards numerical size and volume, making it perfect for describing things like a large crowd or a large pizza. And finally, we explored huge. This term is the heavyweight of the trio, used to describe something truly significant in size or impact, like a huge mountain or a huge achievement. As we discussed, context is key when picking the right word to describe size. The examples we've gone through should help illustrate the subtle nuances between these terms. So the next time you're struggling to find the right word to describe something's size, remember this guide and choose the word that best fits your context.